Rev up your engines. Okay, some people say the Highlander is the gold standard of SUVs. Is that true? Is it a myth? 2018, the guy just bought it with a little over 100,000 miles. He paid $23,000. A lot of people think, boy, that's a lot of money with a lot of miles, but it is a Toyota Highlander XLE all-wheel drive with the V6 engine. Now, speaking of the V6 engine, you can't get them anymore. If you're going to get a modern one, the only thing you can get is a Turbo 4, which I hate, or you can get a 4-cylinder hybrid, non-turbo, or you can get a turbo 4-cylinder hybrid. You got a lot of choices, but you can't get the V6, and this is an excellent engine that can basically run forever. It does have a downside, and that's gas mileage. He gets 23, 24 on the highway if he drives conservatively, and he knows he's getting in the teens in stop-and-go traffic on the East Coast. Stop and go, right? Now, that's one of the reasons that they don't offer this V6 engine anymore. If you don't mind buying a hybrid, the modern hybrid version of this Highlander, it gets 35 miles a gallon in town, 35 on the highway. I've got customers with them, and that's what they get gas mileage. It's real. Where this thing is going to get in the teens in the city, and on the highway, 23, 24 max, because it is all-wheel drive. Now, if you're buying a hybrid, like he bought this, with 100,000 miles on it, maybe you'll get another 100,000 miles trouble-free. Maybe it'll need a battery, maybe not. But when it breaks, hybrids are extremely expensive to repair. These V6s rarely break anyway, so you don't have to think about the stuff breaking down. The automatic transmission is extremely dependable. The engine is pretty much bulletproof. You didn't see these V6 engines get recalled like the Tundras because they didn't build the engines right. Now, this particular one was built in Indiana, and they do a very good job building them there. These are extremely reliable. It's a shame they don't build them anymore, but what can you do about that? One of the main reasons people buy these vehicles is because they're a decent sized SUV, okay? You can see there's all kinds of room here. Now, the one downside is what's happening in the back here. You see, he's got it set up, it's got a nice trunk there. He has the third row seats down. It does have third row seats, but the third row seats are for relatively small people or small children. He doesn't have any kids, so he doesn't care. But you can put third row seats up and have people back there. Cats and dogs would fit back there, unless you have a giant dog, and that wouldn't fit too well either. But it does have third row seating. Unlike the 4Runners that are made in Japan, these are not body on frame. These are unibody construction. They do a good job, they ride better, they handle better, but they are truly urban cars, driving in the city, driving on the highway. They really are not off-road vehicles. Or if you live in a farmland or something, you would be much better off buying a 4Runner with a full frame, because that can handle a lot rougher conditions. These are made for the highway. Let's face the facts. Most people only drive on the highway. Now, aside from poor gas mileage, the other downside of these things is they're expensive. Look, he had to pay 20G plus for one with 100,000 miles. That's what they go for. Price the new ones. You're going to spend 50-something grand. So, if you can afford it and you like a vehicle like this, hey, now, I personally have had a lot of customers that they love Toyotas, but they switch to either Mazda or Subaru for an SUV because of both the price and the availability. And of course, when I'm talking price about a new vehicle, the used ones are a lot more expensive too. But the new vehicles, it's really another dimension when it comes to Toyota versus those, because I had a guy come over here the other day with a Mazda. It was a very nice SUV, right? He got him down to $32,000 for a nice SUV. And he said, "Yeah, Scotty, you know, I went to the Toyota dealer." He said, "They wouldn't budge a nickel. They said, if you don't want to pay this price, Get out of here. We don't even want you here. We don't have any interest in it. And then even the ones he was looking at, they said, well, we don't have them in stock. You're going to have to wait 6 months to get one because we got to make them. Don't ever go by suggested retail price, blah, 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 right? Because most of it's baloney. I looked up around here just the other day what these things cost. New around here? You see, their lowest suggested price, right? All the ones I found they were selling, they were all at least 10 grand over that. At the Toyota dealer, that's the problem. You gotta pay a lot of money for them, and there's no arguing. Now, the difference between this and the new ones where you can get a hybrid or a non-hybrid are actually kind of interesting. Because the hybrids are only like $1,500 to $1,750 more than the 9 hybrids. So if you're going to get 35 miles a gallon in town and on the highway by getting a hybrid and you're buying a brand new vehicle, it would probably behoove you to buy the hybrid version, unless you're somebody who's as cheap as me that's never going to buy a new car anyways. But if I did buy a new car, I'd expect it to last 300,000 or 400,000 trouble-free miles like my Matrix, like our Lexus. I would expect that, right? Well, with a hybrid, 200,000-300,000 miles, you're generally pushing it. You're gonna have to buy an expensive battery, yada yada yada. But these things, I've had people bring me Highlanders that had 500,000 miles on them with these V6 engines, and maybe they burned a quart of oil every 1,000 miles, but they still ran down the road like a dream and shifted okay. A hybrid version with that kind of mileage, I'd never seen one go that far. The most I ever saw in a hybrid one of these was like 165,000 miles, and then the hybrid drivetrain in the rear went out and the guy got rid of the car because he didn't want to spend all that money to fix it. So keep that in mind if you think about buying one of those. If you're one of these people that, hey, maybe you're never going to make it to 100,000 miles, or you get 100,000 miles, you're going to get rid of the car, I would definitely say buy the hybrid version of this. But if you're buying a used one and it's got 100-something thousand miles, I wouldn't buy the hybrid. I would stick to a regular gasoline one. As you can see, it still kind of looks like a new car. He got it at a dealer that was a trade-in by a woman who only owned it. One owner vehicle. He said he looked at a lot of these things, and a lot of them had 2 or 3 owners, and that's going to scare anybody away. This was a one owner, had it all maintained at the dealership, and hey, look at it. I mean, it looks like a new car to me. But of course, realize it's the V6 engine. They don't need much maintenance at all. Just changing the fluids is the main thing, right? Change the tranny fluid, differential fluid, change all that stuff. Maybe every 50, 60,000 miles. Change the engine oil and filter every 5 with synthetic oil. That's all you really need to do on these things. They don't need much maintenance. They are pretty well made vehicles. And even though this is a northern car, Toyota really coats them well when they build them in the giant bath with electrostatic paint to keep them from rusting. And this thing isn't rusted at all. That's not something that you really got to worry about with the Toyota products. They really coat them well. The only thing that you got to worry about, just realize if you're buying a used one that's old, 15, 20 years old, even though the vehicles are so well made and they're rust proof, things like the control arms, brake rotors, any bare metal part will eventually rust if you're up north. For instance, my son's car, his rotors just rusted out on his Corolla, and it was only 7 years old, but it had to go through the Rhode Island salt on the road, and they use 100% salt here. They had a suit about it years ago, and of course the state one, yes, we can use pure salt because it's cheaper, and of course pure salt eats your car up faster. You got to look at that kind of stuff. The body itself isn't going to rust, but all those bare metal parts, you got to check them out when you're buying. Guy brought me an FJ Cruiser, and he was all excited. He said, look, I only paid $18,000 for it. He was all excited, and I didn't have the heart to break it to him. I crawled under there, and yeah, body, there's no rust on the body panels, but underneath it was a rust bucket. Everything was rusted with metal flaking off of it. You got to realize salt destroys a car. If you live up north where they use salt, it behooves you to join one of those car washes. They let you wash infinite car washes, $29 a month or something, and go every few days and get all the salt rinsed off. Because if you don't, that guy, I felt so sorry for him, because hey, He got taken to the cleaners. He didn't have somebody put it on a lift and look. If he would have brought it to me before he bought it instead of after it, he put the cart before the horse, I would have said, don't buy this thing, man. It's a rust bucket. You can't do anything about it. So now comes the moment of truth. We're going to put the giant scan tool up and see what shape this thing is in. I don't expect much of anything, but hey, you never know. It connected anyway, so who cares? We'll do a standalone diagnosis. We read the VIN number, and it is a Highlander, and it has a smart key. I'm not a fan, but they rarely break on a Toyota Highlander 2018. All right, let's see if I can do a full topology scan. So while it's doing it, let's look around. The dash is nice and clean. The leather seats are in excellent shape. It's got a great giant cavernous armrest. It's got heated seats in the front. Got a bunch of power offs. Got hill climbs. It's got snow if you want to start out in second gear so you don't slip. There's the all-wheel drive system. And you got traction control you can turn on or off. It's always turning the automatic start stuff off, which is what I would do too. It's only got one code. Okay, let's see what the one code is. And the code is power window switch of passenger door fault. But as you can see, it just went down. It just went up automatically. Now, I've seen that happen many times. Last time I saw it, it was a woman owned a car. She had long fingernails. So she kept holding on to the switch too much, and it tripped that code because it gives over voltage when you hold it while it's all the way up. That's probably what went wrong. Otherwise, there's no codes at all. So now we'll go to the ECU. We will enter the system. Okay. And we'll look at live data. Remember, black is good, red is bad. And we'll see what's happening. Battery voltage is good. Everything's good so far. Be a lot of information on it because it's a relatively complex car with Toyota systems, but they rarely break. The voltage on the module's good too. Idle speed's good. Shows you the high pressure and the low pressure. Even shows you the injector volume, the milliseconds that it's firing, and the volume. Even shows you the high pressure fuel and the low pressure fuel. Get a lot of information on this thing. You can see it's all good. Now, look, it's almost running perfect. 1.00 is perfect, and it's going between 0.997 and 1.0. That's pretty close to perfect, considering this thing's got 102,000 miles, and it's running a few thousandths of a percent off. So let's take it for a spin. So we'll back her up. Got a really nice backup camera. You can see. Maybe one day I'll actually buy a car that has a backup camera on it. I don't know. Mine haven't broken yet, so if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's a relatively high vehicle, so we're going over the big water bump, and really pretty smooth. Extremely quiet. Now, realize this baby's got an 8-speed automatic transmission. Some people find them a bit kind of laggy in between certain shifts, but of course you can put it in different modes. If you put it in eco mode, you're going to feel it more. If you put it in a sportier mode, it'll shift a little bit later and there'll be more crisp shifts. There's nothing wrong with them. It's just that a lot of people aren't used to driving 8-speed transmissions. And for an SUV, it's relatively high up in the air. It rides good through these horrible Rhode Island roads. They're paving one down the road, but we're not going to make it that far. And they're not going to pave it here in Portsmouth. They got some kind of a feud going on. As soon as they get outside of Middletown, they stop paving. Now, it's a normally aspirated V6 engine, so let's floor it. Plenty of pickup. Smooth. It doesn't have turbo lag because it doesn't have a turbo. Plenty of acceleration, but of course, like I said, the downside is gas mileage. You can see now on a regular trip coming over here, it's getting 22.4. They're not gas mileage, but in the case of this owner, he doesn't care. He uses to carry all of his fishing equipment and everything around, and his girlfriend has a Prius that they take on long trips that gets phenomenal gas mileage. So the best of both worlds. He's got something big when he needs it and something that gets phenomenal gas mileage when he doesn't need it. They made a mistake not making these as far as I'm concerned, but everybody's got this gas mileage bug up their butt, and if you don't mind having a hybrid, Get a hybrid Highlander, you get 35 miles a gallon. But you're gonna pay for it. The car isn't cheap. You can buy an awful lot of gasoline with the difference between that and this is about $30,000. You can buy a lot of gas for $30,000. So here we go. Again, plenty of acceleration, smooth acceleration. They're nice cars to drive. Definitely fun cars to drive around. You just realize you got to pay the piper for that with lower gas mileage. Really, all in all, it's an excellent vehicle. Yeah, a lot of people are worried about buying a car with 100,000 miles. In the case of this car, it's really no worry at all. As I said, I would worry if I bought a higher mileage hybrid car. I know how they go. I would have checked it out more with the computer, but this one checks out fine. So everybody's saying this is a gold standard for that kind of SUV. It pretty much is for what you get. Always, of course, look at what you want. Yes, it's a 3-row SUV, but that third row is pretty tiny. So if you're carrying, you know, a bunch of adults, the people in the third row aren't going to be happy. But he doesn't even have kids. What does he care, you know? It's got all that space in the back with the third row down. Does everything he wants out of it. Yeah, he had to pay 20-something grand for a car with 100,000 miles. But it is the gold standard of SUVs. You don't mind that gas mileage, spending that kind of money. And if you're looking at newer ones, you might think of a hybrid that's going to get 35 miles a gallon in the real world. Because in the real world, he gets 24 and a half on the highway, and in the teens in town with the V6, which is probably why they don't make them anymore. But I don't care. I think it's a mistake because there's a lot of people like him, they're happy with this, and the other car is a Prius or another car that gets really great gas mileage, and they use that for trips. So maybe you don't care and you only need 2-row seats. You can get 2-row ones a lot cheaper. If you don't need it, don't buy it. In his case, it came with it, so fine. But if you do really need a 3-row SUV, you're going to probably want to look at something else if you're serious about putting a bunch of adults in it. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.